Sometimes, as a creator, you hit a wall when it comes to content. So this week, I thought we would...
Please share my 2 brief videos with other people. Thanks.
Okay. Anyway, as I was saying, this week I thought we would check out the...
Please share my 2 brief videos with other people. Thanks.
Who are you? Hang on. I need to look into this a second. Hello, I'm TheSkepTick. I watch videos on YouTube that make extraordinary claims, whether that's evolution is fake or atheism is wrong, but mostly the claim that a god is real, and then explain why I can't accept their position. Before we get into today's video, please do subscribe, hit that bell notification to be alerted for my next video, and drop a like. That would be superb. I usually don't watch and feature videos that are over a month old, but recently...
Please share my 2 brief videos with other people. Thanks.
Yeah. This guy keeps popping up, asking for folks to share his 2 brief videos. I jumped onto his channel, and actually, he does have 2 videos. Though I would describe brief videos as more like 2 or 3 minutes. Either way, since he asks so nicely, it's only fair we take a look.
Please share my 2 brief videos with other people. Thanks.
Yeah, geez, calm down, mister. We're doing it.
Hello and welcome.
Wait, uploaded in 2019? But what camera records in a square? How old is this, really?
If you're an atheist, an agnostic, or just someone who's struggling with what to believe...
Listen, buddy, don't assume that folks are struggling with what to believe. I'm not convinced that there is a God. With certain definitions of God, I'm actually convinced a God doesn't exist. That's not a struggle.
This brief message will help you know the truth.
Can't wait.
The topics I'm going to cover won't take more than 15 minutes, so please just give it a listen and then you can be on your way. The topics I'll cover include sight, sound, the development of planet Earth.
Does anyone want to tell him about PowerPoint? I mean, he used a computer or at least something digital to create the printout he's holding up. He could have just put a slide up instead of holding a slide up. This dated approach to video making does not bode well.
The Earth in space, DNA, the spreading out of the universe, the Big Bang, the Milky Way galaxy, the speed of light, with a demonstration, I might add.
Please let that demonstration involve you running around the garden as fast as you can.
Time and the age of the universe, also with a demonstration.
You're going to demonstrate the age of the universe after running around your backyard? Awesome.
And the creator. Okay, so let's get started. Now, you may believe in the theory of evolution, and I'm not saying that evolution didn't occur. It may have, at least to some degree, though personally I don't believe so.
Even if you don't agree that over millions and millions of years, natural selection was a working factor in the development of different species over time, even if you don't accept the fossil record actually shows gradual changes throughout the Earth's history, or that it can actually be observed that genetic benefits get passed on through generations thanks to many factors, it doesn't mean, therefore, God. By the way, I just love butchering the explanation of evolution. I'm just not equipped for this level of duh.
But the main difficulty with the theory of evolution is eyesight. There's no way to account for eyesight to have just naturally evolved among living creatures eons ago.
Or maybe there is, but you had the wrong eyewear on to read it because, poor eyesight, which in your view, your God gave you. If it made you in its image, why do you have poor eyesight but some others have perfect eyesight? Which image is actually God's? The fact that even today there are many different types of eye would suggest a natural process. If your God was to do it, surely it would have just given out all of the same types of eye.
The fact that light waves exist couldn't have been known, of course, to little creatures with barely developed brains, much less which wavelengths would be most advantageous to them.
That's not how it works, sir. Changes over time allow different wavelengths of light to be observed. It wasn't a creature thinking, I know, it would really help me if I could see purple. Give me a few million years and I'll get back to you.
Now, I've read the attempts to explain the natural evolution of eyesight, including the explanation that it began perhaps as light shone through a creature's thin spot of skin. Now, the fact is, sunlight shining onto thin skin is more apt to cause skin cancer than the development of an eyeball.
And yet, we have eyeballs. And yes, you can get skin cancer, but who knows when melanoma actually started occurring in history? You can't suggest that skin cancer exists, therefore eyes didn't evolve. That's just silly.
I've also read explanations that as creatures evolved way back when, that they wouldn't necessarily have required brains in order to know that they needed to develop eyes. is.
Does he think you just choose when to evolve and pick something you'd like? I mean, I really could do with a way of getting back to the UK, so I really could do with evolving a way to breathe underwater to swim the whole way back. Let's check my progress after a few million years, okay?
It's been pointed out, for example, that there's a type of jellyfish that has a well-developed eye, though it has nothing we'd recognize as a brain.
But jellyfish aren't humans, and so likening them to us is weird. We've already established we don't think traits into existence. Adaptations which benefit species tend to be the ones that are passed on. Take cavefish, for example. They have brains, but no eyes. Maybe the fish that had eyes didn't live as long since they were focused on not being able to see, whereas fish that have no eyes find other ways of surviving and actually had the advantage. Of course, I'm speculating as to how no eyes came to be, but it's definitely interesting to think about, and absolutely better than suggesting cave fish just thought their eyes out of existence.
But to that I say thank you for making my point for me. If something without a brain has an eyeball, that just couldn't have happened through natural evolution.
And yet, all we have is the natural world to examine. Here we have a creature with no brain, a nervous system that reacts, and something that resembles an eye. Just because you don't accept or understand the natural explanation, it doesn't mean Lisa the rainbow giraffe did it, or a god.
I believe that the knowledge of the existence of light waves was essential, and sound waves present a similar problem. You know, I get a kick out of some of those Star Wars movies where something is being blown up in outer space and we hear explosive sounds. There is, of course, no sound in outer space because an atmosphere is needed to carry sound waves.
I hate to break it to you, buddy. Star Wars isn't real. It's not based on real-life events. A movie with an explosion that had no sound would be pretty dull. Let me show you. See? Now with a sound effect. That was loud. But see, you don't pack a movie theatre and not give them entertainment. Maybe your video would be much better with explosions. Consider it for part 3.
Again, there's no way that our little allegedly evolving ancestors eons ago could have known of the existence of sound waves and thus developed eardrums and the other parts of the inner ear necessary to transmit impulses to their little brains and then interpret those sound waves.
I wish there was a way to evolve being able to shut out nonsense or wipe memories when needed. Now I've heard what this guy is saying, I will never be able to unhear it.
Thus, it's easier to believe in the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus than it is to believe that all the various species on Earth just happened during their alleged evolutionary period to develop eyes and ears.
Easier? Sure. Correct? No. That's a lazy approach, which you're basically admitting. It's easier to make something up than to find out the real reason why. Like, why isn't Star Wars real?
Knowledge of the existence of light waves was required for the development of eyesight and their understanding that an atmosphere was available on Earth to carry sound waves that was necessary for all the creatures to have developed ears.
Or, happy coincidence that movement detection eventually became eyeball and vibration sensation eventually became earhole.
I mean, come on, that just could not have happened on its own.
Couldn't it? Though it appears it actually did. So, what now, Obi-Dum Kenobi? Sorry, that was for the lols.
My point is there must have been a creator.
Ah, there we go. Well, can I put forward Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe as the creator, please? No? Oh, okay. We can jump back to this God of the Gaps later, I guess. I want to hear more Star Warful. Waff. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry.
All right, but who? I believe that creator is the God of the Bible. Why? Well, let me give you just a few examples of scientific evidence that you might not have considered before. Then I'll let you go and you can make up your own mind.
Oh, jeez. This better be good. But give us only one reason and make it your best Paddy one. I'm sorry, I've stopped now.
Not long ago, I was watching a program either on Discovery or Science Channel or one of those about the development of the Earth. And they said at one point during the Earth's development that it was covered with water and then some dry land appeared. And I thought, now where have I heard that before? In the Bible, in Genesis, chapter 1, verse 9, God says, let the waters be gathered together and let the dry land appear.
I mean, it doesn't say how it happened in the Bible. It just confirms that there's land, obviously. Unless the folks that wrote the biblical nonsense were actually merfolk. There are many other things that Genesis gets wrong, so you can't cherry-pick the bits that confirm your point and hope that we forget what the rest of it says. Like before the sun was made, when we can actually demonstrate that light comes from the sun, and then when it disappears beyond the horizon, we think, I don't need eyeballs now. I'll evolve some new ones in the morning or something.
All right, now I know that I realize, proof. One example isn't proof. Perhaps you're thinking that when Moses wrote that nice story, he just made a lucky guess. And I say, fair enough.
That's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I don't care what the book says because you need to actually show it to be the word of a god. But I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt purely for the video.
So here's another example. I think you'll agree that in Old Testament times, thousands of years ago, that when humans looked up at the night sky, marveled at the sun and the moon and the stars, they wondered what the universe is and what it would be like to be up there.
What I'm actually thinking is, how on earth did they look up at the night sky and see the sun? That would be the day sky, right? But carry on. I'm waiting for another gap to be filled with a god.
But they were stuck down here on the earth. The earth wasn't part of what's up there. That would have been an impossible thought back then. However, in the Old Testament, in the book of Job, chapter 26, there's a verse that reads, He, referring to God, hangs the earth on nothing. I'll bet that for thousands of years that verse wouldn't have made any sense to people.
Never mind thousands of years. It doesn't make sense now. But I'm sure you're about to godsplain it.
Now, of course, we've all seen those beautiful pictures of the earth out there in space, and as God said, hanging on nothing.
Hanging? No. On nothing? Also no. The Earth is whizzing through space and around our sun at an incredible 67,000 miles an hour. Our sun and entire solar system is belting through space around the centre of our galaxy at 490,000 miles an hour. That's hardly hanging. And space isn't nothing. It's space. Space is something.
Here's another example. In the New Testament, in Matthew chapter 10, verse 30, Jesus says, the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Over the centuries, people must have marveled at that statement.
Marveled at how dumb it is? Where on earth are those numbers? What the actual
But today, of course, we all know about DNA and how it specifies every detail of our physical bodies, including our hair, the color of our eyes, and so forth. Well, Jesus described DNA a couple of thousand years ago.
I'm sorry, what is this guy doing? Saying that numbers on individual hairs, numbers that aren't actually there, is the same as describing DNA is absurd. I mean, I could maybe have scoffed less if Jesus had said the individual names of each strand of hair was written on said hairs, or if science used numbers to describe the DNA code. There aren't actual letters in DNA.
There aren't actual letters in your body. Scientists could have used anything to represent the patterns in our DNA. They could have used shapes, numbers, animals. It just turns out that letters are the simplest because of what they represent. Though I would like my DNA code to be lion, bear, salmon, bat.
There aren't numbers on your hairs. Whatever medication you're taking, I'd consider getting it changed.
Until 1929, when astronomer Edwin Hubble helped to confirm what some other scientists had already been saying, that the universe is spreading out, most everyone, including Albert Einstein, believed initially that the universe was unchanging and stationary. But the spreading out of the universe is well documented in the Bible. Here's just a few examples. Job chapter 9 verses 7 and 8 say that God commands the sun and it does not rise. He seals off the stars. He alone spreads out the heavens. Isaiah 40:22 says that God stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them out like a tent. And Isaiah 51:13 refers to the Lord your Maker who stretched out the heavens. And Jeremiah 10:12 says God stretched out the heavens at his discretion.
How on earth do any of those describe the rapid expansion of the universe? I mean, the tent one especially. Tents are finite. We know that the universe is expanding, but expanding isn't the same as stretched out. I don't even know why I'm bothering with this. You can't even demonstrate that the verses are true.
So it appears that modern science has finally caught up with what the scriptures proclaimed thousands of years ago.
Or ever-changing science keeps demonstrating how the Bible is just absurd, and folks like you go, nuh-uh, I can make one or two verses sound vaguely similar to what science suggests.
All right, now then, since everyone agrees that the universe is spreading out, what's it spreading out from?
You said spreading. When did we agree with that? You can't just say, you accept this. I accept that it's expanding. Yes, spreading? That makes it sound like a hippo evacuating its bowels.
Well, we're told it was the Big Bang. So there was a time when I used to look up at the night sky and wondered, okay, which direction do I look to see where it all began? You know, just as you can follow the ripples back in a pond to where you had tossed in a stone, shouldn't we be able to follow the spreading of the galaxies back to where the Big Bang occurred? But the astrophysicists say it's not like that. They say the universe is more like a rising loaf of bread, in which all the raisins or galaxies are all spreading out from each other. All right, but I found something very interesting.
I think our definitions of interesting are very different.
In this book by theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking, A Brief History of Time, on page 42, Hawking discusses the spreading out of the galaxies, and he says, if we observe all other galaxies to be moving away from us, then we must be at the center of the universe. Hawking says we can only assume that if we were in another galaxy, that we would see everything moving away from us there also, just as we do from our vantage point in the Milky Way. And Hawking added, we have no scientific evidence for or against this assumption. We believe it only on the grounds of modesty.
He's basically agreeing that it doesn't seem to matter where in space you are. It would appear that other points in space would also be moving away from wherever you're standing at, like raisins in a loaf of bread. Just because you can't wrap your head around it, it doesn't mean it's not true.
So that's some very interesting food for thought. But hey, don't argue with me about it. Stephen Hawking wrote that.
Something we can agree on at least.
But speaking of A Brief History of Time, I used to wonder why God chose to create the universe some 14 billion years ago.
Irrelevant. Until you can demonstrate there is a God, you can't assert that it created anything.
I mean, think about it. God has always existed. He exists now and will always exist in the future. So 14 billion years ago is absolutely nothing to God, who always existed before then. So why didn't God create the universe trillions and trillions and trillions of years ago?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe because it's not real? Since the burden of proof has never been met for the existence of any God, I think it's safe to assume there isn't one.
Why wait until just 14 billion years ago?
I bet you're about to make up a reason to explain it that hasn't been demonstrated, but you want us to accept nonetheless.
Of course, there are some theologians who believe that the universe, or at least the Earth, was created some 6,000 years ago or so, just before Adam was created. And of course, geologists get a laugh out of that. They say the Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. But let's remember that time is relative. Time is, in fact, a part of creation.
Yep, called it. How is time a part of creation? Define creation. I'm okay with saying that we exist in time, but I don't know how that instantly means creation and a creator.
We know this because physical speed affects time. The faster we travel, the more time slows down. Now, that fact can be hard to grasp, so I'm going to perform a brief demonstration to show why speed affects time.
Please run around.
First, a brief sidebar here for the purists. I'm going to round off the speed of light to 186,000 miles per second. Also, I realize that light will always clock at 186,000 miles per second. Also, that a traveler wouldn't recognize that his or her time has slowed. And yes, I realize that humans cannot travel at the speed of light. But this demonstration I'm going to perform provides an understanding of why speed affects time. Okay? Now, Einstein once imagined what it would be like if he were standing in a town square. I think he was in Switzerland. And what would happen if he were to be carried away on a beam of light while looking back at the town clock? So here's our town clock. Hey, it was handy, and I like cats. All right, so I'm traveling at the speed of light, looking back at the town clock. The light bouncing off of the town clock is also traveling at the speed of light. So it cannot pass me. The time on the clock stands still. Time stands still. All right, now imagine that I'm going to ride away on a spacecraft that's going near the speed of light, but not quite the speed of light, and looking back at the town clock. Well, the light bouncing off the clock face is traveling at the speed of light. I'm not. So it can pass me, but because I'm traveling near the speed of light, it only passes slowly. Time passes slowly.
Great. You understand that speed can affect time. It doesn't demonstrate a God. Though, when standing in the same spot, time doesn't stand still. It just passes at the same rate at which you're passing. Also, I'm a dog person, but don't tell my cats.
The Earth is not subject to the speed at which everything is moving in the universe.
Why can't people trying to argue a God speak? Don't forget how to make your mouth hole work, Cam. Yeah, thanks, Cam.
If a human being were immortal and had been around right after the Big Bang and had been traveling in a spacecraft near the speed of light since then, nowhere near 14 billion years would have passed yet for that traveler.
If? Okay. We tend to accept evidence with ifs, do we? And it depends on when in time you check in on that weirdly immortal human being. If that being had been travelling at the speed of light for 14 billion years in a single direction, it would just be really, really far away from its point of origin, surely.
So the passage of time really is relative to the speed at which a person is travelling.
Okay, But how does that demonstrate a God?
Now, because time is part of creation, God can certainly affect time when he wants to.
Oh, there we go. Blah, blah, blah. God can do it. Lisa the rainbow giraffe manipulates time if she wants to. Therefore, Lisa the rainbow giraffe exists. Easy.
The book of Joshua in the Old Testament relates an instance when God fought for Israel and stopped time for a day.
And Marty McFly got the DeLorean up to 88 miles an hour and jumped back in time, accidentally knocking down one of the twin pines and rewriting history. Cool story, huh? But it didn't actually happen.
And Isaiah chapter 38 relates that God once moved the shadow on Hezekiah's sundial back by 10 degrees as a sign of God's support for him.
Book says so. Must be true.
I mean, look, if humans may someday affect time noticeably by traveling near the speed of light, of course God can affect time. He created light and time. Now, if time's relativity still seems difficult to fully understand, let me give you one more demonstration that may help. All right, now, I don't know, of course, what time is like in God's realm.
This had better be the point where you run around.
But this concept helped me to stop wondering about when God created the universe. So imagine that you're with me here and we're here in the heavenly realms, and this ruler I'm holding stands for God's creation as well as its timeline.
I don't know. That's going to take a lot of imagination.
So look here where the ruler begins, where creation and time began. It makes no sense to ask, well, when did this begin? Well, it begins right here. One might ask how God created the universe or even why he created it.
Here's a crazy idea. Bear with me. Imagine, since we're imagining things, but just imagine if that ruler doesn't actually have a beginning and there was something before the current universe bounced into existence. What say you then, good man?
But the question of when it began doesn't make sense. The universe was created right here.
My question isn't that. It's how many times have you used that ruler to measure yourself? And did you wash it before this presentation? We've all done it. I mean, I have a radius of 9 inches. Well, I am a circle. What were you talking about?
So there's no when to it. Okay, perhaps that's what time will be like in heaven. We'll just have to wait and see.
All that? And you're still not certain? What a waste of time. See what I did there?
But let me leave you with this final thought. God created galaxies so unimaginably huge that from our perspective, it can take a beam of light traveling at 186,000 miles per second, 100,000 years just to cross from one side of the Milky Way galaxy to the other. He created and is still creating suns that are so immense that just one of them could hold 1 million of our suns. And our sun is so unimaginably huge that it could hold 1 million of our Earths.
Unimaginably, huh? Huh. It's not that difficult. Why for art thou not giving me more credit in what I can imagine? Or maybe it's because I said I'd have a hard time imagining being in your garden. Yep, fair enough.
Yet the Bible says that God knows every little bird. In the deepest, darkest rainforest, there are little creatures that humans may never lay eyes on, but God knows they're there, and he cares about them. Jesus said, in effect, that if God loves animals, and he does, then how much more he loves us, his highest creation, because God created you and me, each one of us, to have a personal relationship with him.
Well, good for you, but you have to remember that a lot of folks don't give two monkeys' butts what's even written in the Bible. Me included.
Now, Jesus, whom the Bible says is with God and is God, said he stands at the door of your heart and knocks. God knows who you are. He wants you to know him. But Jesus isn't going to break down your door. He's given you free will. It's your decision whether to invite him in.
Well, in that case, I'm grateful that this supposed God gave me the choice to not be convinced of any rubbish claims pertaining to its existence. I thank God for making me an atheist, I guess. Well, hopefully we've seen enough about truth about science and God to never have to deal with his comments to...
Please share my 2 brief videos with other people. Thanks.
Again. I'm going to skeptic this as dealt with, but if you want to add to the conversation, feel free to do so in the section below. A big thank you to this month's ticks on Patreon, MISM, Addy Rockart, the Enixes, and the Absolute Lunatic Jimmy, as well as all the base ticks. You can become a supporter on Patreon too at patreon.com/TheSkepTick. The link is in the description, along with links to all my other socials. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. From me, the TheSkepTick. Stay safe, keep thinking logically, and ask questions. Skepticism is the first step towards truth. See you next Saturday.